Okay, you tell me what problems do you think you're having?
First of all, I have memory problem, so I
But you didn't have it now. Everything was memory-wise was okay, right?
yeah, but when I have to play the piano in front of audience, I tend to be idle.
Nervous.
Yeah.
Okay, but right now you're not nervous.
Maybe.
Okay, that's fine. Good. All right. So I mean that's not necessarily a memory problem. It's a stage fright problem, right? So there's only one way to really deal with that, which is to play a lot, perform a lot, right? So do you have any connections in local churches or anything like that?
No. Probably
Okay,
I can.
maybe I can arrange something for you.
Oh, thank you.
Um, I don't know if you can play this piece though, because it's it requires two instruments. But maybe I can arrange for you just to play any. Can you put together like a 45-minute program? Do you think?
45.
Any pieces? Pieces you're comfortable with.
Maybe.
I mean, you have the ballade, right? You have all your audition repertoire.
Uh-huh.
Maybe not all of it you're comfortable with, but you have plenty of pieces, right, in your fingers. Okay, so pick a Sunday. Actually, you know, it doesn't have to be when I'm around. Ideally, it's when I'm around. But if any Sunday in June or July, just tell me and I will arrange for a concert. It's not a great instrument, but it's an okay instrument.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so you know, dealing with performance anxiety there's only one cure, which is to perform a lot. Okay, and you know, part of it is also just a mindset where the reason. Like the logical reason why we have performance anxiety is because we're afraid of judgment, right? That's what we're afraid of. But maybe you can kind of convince yourself that that's not the best approach, like the best mindset. Because what's going on as a performer, you're trying to share something beautiful with someone, right? With your audience. So it's like you went and you discovered these beautiful things, and now you're coming home and you're sharing it with your friends. Okay, it's a very positive, actually, exchange of ideas. So if you think about it that way, that also helps, I think. Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is very well learned right now. So we've worked on it a lot already. Do you videotape yourself when you perform, or like when you practice at home?
One time.
You should try to videotape yourself, because there are places where we've been working on your habits and like your tensions, and in certain places you do this still, you know. So this is still a work in progress, and loosening you up in that regard would be better. But I think being aware of it visually will help. And that's one way to deal with that, is to videotape yourself. Okay? So that's another thing. Now let's talk about general problems. Okay? The first general problem is your pedaling is still a little bit too heavy when you pedal. It's not that you're over pedaling in terms of the frequency with which you use pedal. It's when you do use the pedal, you're pressing too hard. And I was looking at your foot, and you're pedaling like with like the center of your foot, and just anatomically, this part of your foot is a little bit less sensitive. So ideally, you want to move your foot back. It's also heavier, you know. This part is heavier. You're putting more of your body weight over your foot. You want to put your toe on the pedal. Like, it's actually it's like almost like you're about to slip off. So that's something, I mean, you may feel a little bit uncomfortable at first, right? Because you feel unbalanced. Is that right? So, you know, just be reasonable about it. You don't have to be like torturing yourself, but try to think about moving your foot back a little bit more and being more sensitive about the depth of your pedaling. A really obvious example that comes to mind is, you know, this part where he has, it's the transition. Yeah, right here. here, and it's a good idea to use pedal here for an effect, but it can't be a pedal where the sounds are blending, right? Because there's nothing harmonic about these sounds. So if you put them all on the same pedal, in the same deep pedal, you're just creating mud, right? You're creating soup. And that's not what you want. The idea of this pedal is to create a contrast and articulation between. You hear that pedal? I used a little bit of pedal there. But I also did use a little bit of difference in my finger articulation. And the pedal is just there to change the background color on the image, if that makes sense. Or change the filter. All right? But it's not creating mud. Can you try just this as an example? Do it 2 more times. Just experiment. Your foot is a little bit deep. Yeah. Is that comfortable for you if you go if you're like that? Yes. Try it. It could be further out, but I think this is like a minimum of where your foot should be. Yeah. Try to find the point where the sound doesn't instantly disappear, but it doesn't last more than a second. Yeah, you see? It's very nuanced, and each piano is different. So your foot has to be able to make micro adjustments based on what you're hearing, right? So it's like, that was too late. Do you hear how it's like an echo somewhere in the instrument. That's what you're trying to create, right? But it's not like it's lasting, right? There's a difference. Good. Okay, so that's an overarching problem that's relatively simple to address, or like we can identify and talk about it very clearly, right? Now the second thing is, now you know the piece very well. It's very well studied, I would say. You've put in a lot of time and dedication into this piece. It's memorized. Now we need to get you to make this piece your own in a way. Okay, so there are places where if you're performing and simultaneously hearing yourself, I expect you to react a certain way, or not a specific way, but I expect you to react somehow to what's going on. For example, where the orchestra plays. It doesn't make sense for you to then come in and immediately play with exactly the same color. Because we've already heard this melody in the orchestra part, especially because it's a piano playing the orchestra part. But, if you're telling a story, imagine. Different. But different relative to the orchestra, in this case, right? And those are the sort of things that are fairly obvious if you're listening to yourself at the same time. So I think your mindset up to this point has been, okay, what are the instructions that I've been given, and how do I studiously address those instructions, okay? I think it's important for you to now try to move beyond that and, take certain risks when you're performing. Okay? So if you do something risky, it's okay. And if I ask you, why did you do this? It's a bad idea. And you tell me, oh, I was just trying something new. I'll be very happy. I'll be very happy if you tell me that, even if I disagree with it, okay? But it's important for you to take these risks. All right. So those are my general comments about the piece. Now, my general criticisms. There's a lot of positive things I didn't say, okay? There's a lot of nuance that we can add. So let's work a little bit now in micro details, okay? Can we go from, just go from the beginning. Okay, right there, don't move. Oh, no. Do you see do you know what I'm about to say? What? Yes, exactly, right? Especially, remember, when you play with force on the instrument, there needs to be a reaction like this. Otherwise, it's just tension that's causing the sound. And then here, I was going to tell you just a pro tip. Before you play this chord, take like a tiny amount of time to prepare. You know, you're by yourself here, so there's no issue of being together with the orchestra. So you can take just enough time to be comfortable and to be, you know, to comfortably press the keys, as long as it doesn't deform the tempo. And it's not going to deform the tempo if you just articulate very clearly like that. All right? So can you try one more time? And make sure not to, of course, hunch over. Yes. Okay, good. Can you? That was very, very good. And already it was better than before. The first time you played, this sounded too similar. This was too similar to the forte. So it was too extreme in that regard. Now the dynamic level was good. Now, talking about nuance, I'm just going to throw ideas at you that are just designed to make your performance more individual and personal and inspired. Okay? So this harmony right here is substantially more dissonant than anything that's happened before. So there's a rational reason to change a color there. Not in a way that disrupts the flow of the phrase or the timing or anything, but can we do something more than just play it all in the same level? Can we do something? Do something about that harmony there. Yeah, from the piano. Haunting is the word. Good. That was good. Now, just so you know something about the process of performing. That was good. That was one way to interpret that phrase, which was good. Can you play it 2 more times and each time find a different version? Good. Obviously, there's a criticism there of taking time, which is a little bit risky in the style of Beethoven. But at least you tried it, okay? I'm fine. Now, third way. Find a third version. It's funny because it's very easy to find 2 versions. There's the loud version and there's the soft version. But the reason I asked for 3 is because if I ask you for 3, you have to think of something in terms of something else than volume, right? You have to think of another parameter by which to modify your phrase. So, for example, you can change where the tension is released. You can do or right. You can release it earlier or later. So that's another parameter that you can modify each time differently. All right. So that's one example. Can we go from so in this theme, can they be both looking forward into the next phrase and looking backward? What I mean by that is na da 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 da. That would be interpreting these C's as being like echoes of this phrase, right? Na da 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 da. Na da, and that would be a new phrase. And that's a very like one-dimensional way of interpreting the phrase, right? Only seeing the C's as functioning in one way, right? But the C's also foreshadow the next note. So, you see, there's a lot of intensity in the repetition of that note that leads into the next C. Can you explore that intensity? So. Right there. Phrase. Right here, don't do an accent on the first C because it has to be related to the expressive quality of the earlier phrases. So. Right? That would be the same formula, right? So he extends this line. But if you accent the first note, then that destroys the expressiveness of that first of this two-note group, right? And then the other thing is keep the direction going all the way to the G. That's the point of the sforzando. The sforzando is not a real sforzando necessarily. It's telling you don't relax. So. Relax. Can you try from the Good. Okay, great. Everything here was very good. I love the way you play this. Very good. I've been very happy about it. Now, the second theme, again, this is a place where the pedal bothers me a little bit. It's getting better and better, but the depth of the pedal is the issue here. Okay? These notes right here, I would like you to be very expressive on the E flat. You play a little bit like this. The second D is a little bit too accented, and I understand the reason why, because it's a long note and you want it to last. But can you do it without surface articulation? Can you do it with the depth of the note? In other words, ta ta ta. That would be a surface articulation. Like it's a deep note. It lasts a long time, but it's far away. So. Everything in terms of expressiveness was exactly what I was looking for at that time, but now it became a little romantic. Okay, so do it again. All the expressive sounds that you're utilizing, do them again, but don't modify the tempo. So in this line of eighth notes, be careful not to do. It's very easy to, when you're trying to be expressive, to veer into romantic territory. Try again. technical moment is getting better and better. What does this say?
Loud.
Loud. Oh, it's okay. Don't be loud and heavy, because the problem is you're trying to like play extra strongly and with like a good sound here, but the way you're achieving that sound is by it's very downwards energy. Remember, like whenever you're pressing down, it's like you're putting an anchor on your hand, right? Because weight prevents motion. So the way we do it is relaxed, falling, but it's not downwards. You see this energy here? There's an initial impulse that's downwards, but the transfer between the keys and the finger is always lifting after the note. You see, there's never anything preventing me from lifting my hand. And this moment where you're jumping cannot have weight. Weight will prevent you from being able to jump, right? So, and you know, let me get this light back on. Oh, there we go. So, you know, this moment reminds me of a place that I am working on, which is it's this difficult passage from this Chopin piece, Allegro de Concerto. It also has jumps, and it's a sequence. So it's very similar in a lot of ways. And I had for many years a problem here, and it was because of the exact same thing. Every time I got to this moment, I would suddenly go. I would try to like force the sound to make sure that it came out, and I would never be able to play right. So the trick is actually try to focus on lifting your wrists, because a high wrist is symptomatic of an upwards energy transfer in the hands. Okay. So can you try this passage slightly slower? So up, down, but not down. So let's just try this moment like in detail. Look. So going back to this idea of the pivot in the middle of the hand, like right in front of the wrist, the finger goes down, but the wrist is up. So there's nothing impeding you from going up. Can you just try? Also, have your third finger in your right hand more actively participating in finding the key it's going to play. So you play a little bit like it's the control center is here, but you don't really know what your finger is going to do. Have the fingertip be like at the forefront of finding the pitch. Yes. Yeah. Good. Okay. So now we're here. We found this note, and now we're going to just articulate. And then at the end, this is a good exercise, just to test how free you are to move. So we've already covered the first jump, so let's just start from here. How comfortably can you get off of this note? Just test. Yeah? Try to make it even faster. Yeah, okay. That's the type of speed required to be able to play this passage comfortably. So, and now here there's no accent necessary, right? This is very light. Just like imagine if somebody played like this. It would be impossible, right? So can you try? No. That's like you're hitting it. Just no. Yes. So, do your left hand note actually. Hmm? It's two. There's weight there. Do you hear it? Because this, I can, even without looking at you, I can tell that there's weight. That sound. Wait, because it means that there's tension here. So you have to play the note, waste time relaxing your hand, and then moving. You don't have time to do all those things. Not to mention the sound is not very pretty. Right? So try it. We don't want it to be like a completely Debussy invisible sound either, but more finger, like more of the sound is generated by the finger than by throwing of the hand. Try it. So, a little bit of weight here, no weight, no weight, a little bit of weight here. Yes. Da-da-dum. Mm-hmm. Now try it. Yes. Yes, that's on the right track, okay? So now we're talking about just making this absolutely masterfully perfect, this passage, okay? Up till now, we've just been making it function. Now you're at a point where our goal is to be professional. So that's what you need, okay? All right. Here. Very good. Now here's an example of what I was saying about listening to the piece. Okay? A student will look at these phrases and they will see, okay, two note slur with a sforzando. So I have to play down, up, down, up. And they're going to play each one of those phrases exactly the same because it abides by a certain formula. Now, I'd like you to move beyond this level and realize that this note here has a certain foreshadowing quality to it because the sound kind of has to continue. It's not a big difference because it's still a two-note slur, but what that means is that the second two-note slur should be a little bit more, and the last note here has to have more focus. It cannot be pale. Because then it sounds like you're beginning a new phrase. And you wanna try to find, basically whenever you're thinking about music, this is a general truth about music, you're trying to find connections horizontally. How does this event relate to this? And if you find a connection, then you base your interpretive decisions around that. Okay? Do you hear the difference? So, it's not. It's not that. Okay? It's a very minor modification to what you were doing. Everything else was fine. Okay? Try it one more time. pretty heavy here. This is kind of a minor detail, but your sound sounds like this. You're transferring the baton to the orchestra. It's like, you know, the races where there's two people running and one person runs and gives the baton to the other person, and that's what's going on here. So actually, you're not that important here, because from the fourth beat they're going. So what we really want to hear. That's what you want to hear. So therefore, it's background. Okay? It's minor detail. Do you want to try from there? Good. So in other words, the sound there is no longer that of a soloist. Good. Okay. Oh, here's what we were talking about earlier. Okay, so I'm going to play, and I want you to react to how I play, right? You know, I really like what you're doing. I don't know if this was your idea, but it's a great idea. Color change here. Beautiful. But follow that logic all the way to the conclusion. This harmony still is a consequence, right? So going back to what I said earlier, finding relationships between one event and the next event. The way you played just now was right? So have it come out of that sound. Yeah? Four notes. From there. Beautiful. Don't be satisfied with that. It was a little bit like it took you a couple notes to get really focused here. So what will help is actually if you do. I'm going to do it very slowly so that you hear what I'm doing. I lied. I played fast and then I played slow. I'm going to do the whole thing slowly. I put a little bit of a breath here, because here actually you don't want to connect. There's two different structures. It's a different mood. So if you can create a little bit more clarity here, and don't be obvious. Like make it so small that nobody notices. It's just suddenly everything is clear. Try it. From there. Good. Okay, this passage was all very impressive. Did you feel comfortable about this? I thought this was very good. Your tempo was very good. It was very, very rhythmically stable. Yeah, I don't have anything. I don't think it's necessary to spend too much time on this. Maybe your sound could be greater. You know, sometimes you're still you do this, and that prevents your sound from being fully open. But in terms of the technique and the rhythm, it was very impressive. Okay? Okay, there's not too much time left. The development was also fine. play a little bit maybe. From here. From there. Can you, it's, everything you're doing is fine, but can you do more of it? Can you be more expressive on these notes? I would like to marvel at how softly you play the ends of your phrases and how expressive those notes are. Both of those things. So it's simply doing them well is not sufficient. I have to marvel. Okay? Can you try? I'm not moved. That one was okay. Think how an operatic tenor would sing this. I'm playing a little bit romantically right now because I can show you better the expressive notes that way. So the correct way is to do the same expressiveness within the style of Beethoven. Okay, one more time. I'll give you a hint. It's about compressing the tension in these four notes. And then releasing it. And then compress, release. Release. Right? Everything was great, but the last note was not soft enough. Yeah, you know why? It's because you're doing this. And then you're stuck. You're not moving. Remember, as long as the phrase is going, your hand cannot stop moving. Because it's a visual element, but also there's the physical element. By moving, you're measuring the weight. So, as the sound decays, no. You're calculating how much weight you need to play on the next note. If you play na, you lose all sense of what remains of this note, and then you play you hear the difference, right? So the motion doesn't have to be fast. In fact, it's better if it's slow, but it has to be non-stuck. Can you try? Good. Good. Ah. Soft. Yes. The 16 notes here were very precise. I was very happy about that. Much better. Okay. All right. Recap. I'm glad that I heard it, but everything I have to say I've already said in the exposition. Okay. Let's do development. Sorry, not development. Cadenza. But it's a little bit stuck rhythmically. So take time until here. So. You play a little bit like. It's too many bumps along the way. Can you try? I like the sound. It's much more rich than before, but do it in tempo. One more time. From da da dum. Stand behind me and feel my shoulders. Now this is you. You see the difference? Not only is their energy going back at you, it's going back once from the right hand. Na da ram da dum pum nam na dum pum pum. So it's there's a little bit of this going on, but you don't have to do that. It's what you feel in your arms, but you don't obviously you don't do this, right? Can you try? Have you considered doing? A lot of pianists do this, and you know it's a little bit academically unsound to do it. So if you're playing for like a music history faculty, don't do that sort of thing. But the reason we do it is because it helps us differentiate between the intensity levels. And this is the most intense. So it helps us. And one of the arguments that pianists have is this note did not exist on Beethoven's instrument. So, but we have it, so why not? It's a pretty common thing. You know, adding doublings is pretty normal in organ music because it's the same as just changing the stop. So it's I think something you can consider doing. I've seen many competition winners do it, and you know it's not something that will disqualify you, unless you're playing for like I said, a music history faculty. Then it's a different story. But for a normal pianist, I think they will appreciate what you're trying to do. The intensity with which you focus on the individual notes in these arpeggios is very impressive. You do that very well. And it's not too fast anymore. It's very good. It would be nice if there was a little bit more of like a swinging motion. And I know that it's hard to reconcile the articulation of the individual note with the swinging motion. But now you can try to add, I'm exaggerating. But just think of the top note as always being like a releasing of the compression. So That's where you release. It's analogous to compress, release. So compress, release. It's the same mechanism physically, okay? I'm not going to spend more time on that. The arpeggios were very good. When you get to the trills, it sounds a little bit like, okay, now this is happening, now this is happening. You know, so again, this is fundamentally improvisatory music. So it has to seem like you're trilling, and then the idea just occurred to you on this moment, and you're composing your cadenza. That's not the truth, but that's how it needs to seem, because that's the character and the nature of a cadenza. It's an improvisation by the virtuoso. So, oh. Each one of those notes needs to be like, aha, oh. You know, that type of expression. The way you play. Yeah, you understand? Can you try just from this chromatic scale? Good. Keep going. Rest. Yeah, right here. Make sure you do the rest in the right hand. There's this fine here, definitely. I felt like your sound was not open enough. It just wasn't like, it needs to be shockingly expansive in a great concert hall. People in the back row need to be like, wow, this little girl has so much sound and it's so dramatic. You know, that's the type of feeling they need to have. So that's probably one of the biggest cases where your physiology and the way you play is holding you back, because you're too concerned about the technique here, and it's causing you to not be able to open up your sound. So can you play from right there? It'll be good to practice this like 20% slower tempo with focus on extreme intensity in the sound, like finger strength, basically. So. And you wanna use throwing motions when you're practicing, because that'll create like more flexibility in your technique here. And you need the flexibility to have the large sound. You can't do it just by like trying hard, you know? Even the right hand needs a little bit of a throwing to have that edge in its sound, okay? All right, we're running out of time, so one other thing is, when you get here, it's similar to the previous trill thing. I like to slow down the trill because it makes sense for me that these moments are related to the trill. It's like this trill is slowing down and keeps going. Okay? And then the other thing is you have to be a little bit aware of your tempo. So slow when you played earlier. that's it. Do you want to try these trills just right here? Okay, that's it.
Thank you so much.
Great job. Yeah, you're very you always do what the modifications ask you to do, so it's a pleasure to work with you.